Hey guys, Nerdarchy Steve here from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, and I got a couple of my esteemed colleagues hanging out with me
I'm
today.
Ted.
I'm Nate.
And one of our Nerdarchists out there, one of the viewers, James Miller, had asked the question: what about magic items in the economy of a fantasy setting? So, and this is like the age old question, right? Because what would happen when I first started playing is, one, like you're like loading up your players with all kinds of cool magic items because it just seems like a great idea and
Right.
they're cool and you want to use them. But when you start breaking that down, it doesn't really work. Like, you would totally destroy the economy if they were able to actually sell everything that you gave them.
Right.
So it doesn't work. They give some cool suggestions in here about selling and buying magic items.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you guys think?
Well, in previous edition, my longest exposure with lots of magic items was third edition. And in third edition, every item had a price. You could always find it. You could generally try and find somebody to buy it. And we got to the a stopping point in the campaign, and we had so much loot that we literally could buy our own kingdom with the amount of stuff we had. And like you told us straight up, there's no way you can find buyers for all of this stuff. We would have to literally quote unquote adventure just to sell the stuff.
Right.
So with 5th edition, they turned the dial back on magic items. They went back to more of, in my opinion, will be a 2nd edition mindset where magic items were a bit more rare. They did away with the whole +4 and +5 bonuses entirely, which 3rd edition really kicked out there. And they don't give you a set item price for what things are worth for everything.
Individually.
Yeah,
They now give it based on rarity.
On its rarity. So therefore, you can, if you adventure, you can find as a reward a formula for a magic item, but it doesn't give you
that's actually kind of a variant rule too. That's if your dungeon master even lets you make magic items.
That's true with that as well.
Because crafting magic items is a variant rule in this. It's an
Right.
option. So they basically said, hey, the power is in the DM's hands. If he wants to let you make stuff, he can let you make stuff. Or he can let you make certain things by saying, hey, if you find a magic formula, and that way you can kind of like stopgap on any kind of...
Well, since we're kind of talking about an economy in addition to specifically magic items, one of the interesting things, if you actually read the section on equipment and gear in the player's handbook, it basically says, pretty much adventurers are the only one that really use coins, and maybe the wealthy.
Right.
Maybe, because most other people are going to barter and trade goods as opposed to
trade
coins.
goods. They're going to use services, favors to say, hey, I need this thing here.
Yeah, because if you kill a troll or something that's been harassing the area for decades, well, he's got all the merchants' loot, all the money that would have been in there, and blocks of gold or whatever they're trading, bars of iron, but he's not going to have just, you've killed a troll in the street and here's all this cash popping out of him.
It's like the video game, I kill a dude and he just bursts into piles of treasure.
Yeah, so so that's an accumulation of wealth. Layer hoards are accumulation of wealth over a lot of time.
Right.
So the other idea too in 5th edition and from earlier editions was, well, when you get magic items, you're not going to want to get rid of them. Because supposedly, they're supposed to be kind of the best thing you can get in the game.
Right.
And conversely, other people don't have as much use for them. The merchant, what's he going to do with a +1 sword? What's he going to do with a magic suit of armor? Well, the best he could do is probably find a set of adventurers that want to buy it.
Right.
Yeah, or some rich noble is like, looks this beautiful dragon scale mail. Yeah, I'll buy it for 100,000 because I've got somebody who will probably want this for double that somewhere in like a city somewhere. So he's probably thinking he's already got a buyer. And merchants have special connections rather than just a random adventurer on the street. Like, what am I going to do with this +2 sword?
So and the magic items are a bit more interesting too than Pathfinder and 3rd edition in the way that they're presented. So in those games, it was almost like it was about the gear in your inventory as much as it was about your character.
Absolutely.
We've gone back to the emphasis is back on the character, not so much the gear. So you're an adventurer. You find magical goods. Now, you have to find someone to actually buy them. They actually built in the mechanics, if you want to use them, to actually use investigator or intelligence check to actually find a buyer, how many days it's going to take you, whether you find the buyer or not. It
Right.
still takes that long to look.
Right.
And then, there's kind of like this nifty little table. I think the table is actually straight from first edition or second edition, to be honest with you. But
It does look that way.
where it tells you, what percentage, either below, above, or at the cost of the item that you're going to get.
Right.
And it also, like, it hints at consequences for selling it to this individual as well.
Oh yeah, there are some shady buyers on this table.
There's like 2 or 3 of them are like,
And
and
you're like, oh, this is a guy going to just try and rip me off, or is this guy, for trying to find something for a warlord or something, or
or is there going to be a legal consequence down the road,
Yeah.
because you sold to somebody?
Right.
You're now like an accessory to a crime you didn't even know about. You're like, I don't know, I just had a magic loot. I don't play the loot. What do you want me to do? when I play the loot, I have cats following me around meowing horribly. It's just no good.
yeah. So for the saleable magic item, there's common, uncommon, rare, and very rare. They leave off legendary as a saleable item.
Because you're not selling a legendary item.
You got to be daft, or you got to really want a palace. That's kind of like the scale, because
If it's so good if it's that good and someone actually wants it, they're like, they probably don't have the money for it, or they actually have to. They're gonna have to trade their palace to get it.
yeah, the cost of crafting, they have legendary on the crafting magic items, is $500,000. That happens to also be the cost to build a palace or large castle.
Nice.
So that's the level. Like, stronghold castle with a palace inside, or a legendary artifact. That's the level
No.
that it's at.
That's legendary
Oh,
item.
the legendary item.
That's not even talking
That's
about
true.
the
Artifacts
artifact
up
level.
on top of that. So one of my issues with the economy thing is I'm glad it's in here, but this came up in my mind because I have a character in Ted's game. He's a cleric. He's finally gotten 2nd level spells, and one of the spells he took was Continual Flame. It costs money to cast that. It's like 50 gold pieces worth of ruby dust or some kind of gemstone dust. Well, I'm like, all right, 50 gold for that is a base cost. No one can make an enchanted lantern that glows forever without spending that 50 gold. So if you bought one, it's got to cost at least the time to make it for the guy. The fact that it's a 2nd level cleric spell should add money to it. Because, you got to pay for healing. Healing's not free.
Right.
So why would a 2nd level cleric spell be free? So cost to make 50 gold, plus the cleric's time. Even if we add it 10 to 25 gold, so 75 gold right there. Plus the lantern. Make it a really nice lantern. It's going to glow forever. So another 10 gold for a really nice, sweet lantern with some engraving or whatever on it. All right, so you're already to the cost, like almost 100 gold. And it's like, well, crafting it in 5th edition, saying, like, let's say that's in the thing. Let's say it's a common magic item, a continual flame lamp.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so 100 gold. So 4 days plus all of your stuff. You got to live for that 4 days. 8 hours a day. So it's like a full-time job to make one continual lantern is continual flame lantern. And the cost to make it, just the creation cost, is the same as the base price for selling it. So that's kind of like the economy is off on that for me. Because, why would you make a continual flame lamp if you were looking towards, I could actually sell it?
Here's my
it's
view-
got to be more than the price to sell
Here's
it.
my viewpoint on that. And since I'm the DM, it's great to be able to, spur in.
Tell me how much I will make.
So you threw in there, okay, plus a nice lantern and this and that, and already you're thinking outside the box, So if it's a base price of 100, I would say that's for, an ever burning torch. You get just a stick that's got a permanent magic on it.
Stick in a sack
and
when
you
you
can
don't want
just stick in a sack, or some wrap it in black cloth and it doesn't glow anymore. But if you want to make something that looks nice, get a bullseye lantern so that you can be able to, aim it in whatever direction you want, then you have the ability to offer that at a higher price. Whether you find, sellers and this and that is going to depend upon, who your contacts are, what kind of need they're going to have for that type of thing. Do I recommend you go and making, 10, 20 of them in your downtime? Probably not. But to always have 4 to 5 on hand if you've got the components for it, I absolutely think that's something to be able to do. So you come across somebody that's, hey, are you interested? You've got one that you can just straight up sell right now, and you can be able to replace it within a day.
Now, while I would like to be a magic item making merchant and sell things like that, I'm thinking probably because they made the crafting magic items the same cost as the base saleable price, you're not supposed to be making magic items and selling them as a living. Is what I'm seeing it as.
As a living, probably not, especially not.
Either that or someone that did not know economics at all made these.
But if you look at, maybe potions as a way to go, they are a consumable item. You give an adventuring party one ever burning torch, maybe 2, and they're set. They don't ever need that again. Whereas healing potions and potions of whatever else,
use once.
They're used one and done. So those are the kind of things that I think are going to have a much more, resale. And if you're always providing good at good prices, you'll have repeat customers. Heck, I know for a fact that in the Griffin Gaff campaign setting, there's 2 adventuring parties based out of one city. So,
but what Nate's saying, the problem is if you use the base price of the way they do it, you can never sell it for more than it cost them to make it.
That's where I'm.
Well, I could get if I rolled high, I could find a shady buyer that would also offer me 150 for the land.
That's where I'm going to just have to basically disagree with the books and say that there's no way if the healing potion costs 50 gold to buy, there's no way it costs 50 gold to make. End of story. It's got. I would say the base price to make it would be 25.
Well, isn't the healing potions are in the PHP?
Yeah,
for 50.
Yes,
costs 100 to make it.
Yeah, so their charts are a little off. I think it's just like a general guideline. For sale, you're saying that if it's for 50 gold in the PHP, it's got to be cheaper to make. Because
straight out in my game, if it costs you 50 gold to buy a 2d4 plus 2 healing potion,
it's going to
cost 25 to make it.
Makes sense.
End of story. Now, if you go out and say, you know what, I'm going to, while adventuring, I come across herb X or berry A, well, that's going to reduce my cost because I've specifically harvested the components myself.
Yeah.
So there's other things too. Like, one, do you actually know how to make it? You have having the spell is not enough.
Absolutely. You need you essentially need the formula to be able to make it. You either need to find somebody who knows how and have them teach you. You have to find the recipe yourself. Or you have to throw caution to the wind and experiment.
Or maybe, maybe the first step is you actually have to have tool proficiency as an alchemist.
You have to have the herbalist kit.
The herbalist kit or alchemist, possibly.
Okay.
Either one would probably work.
The section I read said for making potions, a good mix is the herbalist tool proficiency.
Right.
But I just as easily accept alchemy, yeah.
So there's that. And then another thing I was thinking about when you were talking about, think about technology, right? There's a lot of technologies that are available that they're there, but they're not readily available. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for that. Because it's not cost effective to make it. And magic is even far less cost effective because look at just spells. The same magic missile spell written by 2 different wizards is completely different. And even though you have his spell, you have to relearn it and transcribe it into a way that you understand it in order to even use it.
Yeah, the base formula on how magic works is the same, but your interpretation or what you need, your notes that you have to create to make the magic is going to be different.
So going beyond the basic, I'm a wizard, I cast spells, is more difficult. So it's typically going to be the specialist artisan or the adventurer who is already a step above that is going to come across this type of stuff.
And the other thing is you're also you're talking about an economy for building products or merchandise for that there really isn't a very big market for in your typical fantasy game. Now, like if you go into a game like Eberron, it's a lot different. Because there's actually a house Cannith that actually that's what they do. They produce magic items, and magic conveniences, and they've been doing it for like the last 100 years or so because there was a war going on, and they would sell it to whoever wanted to buy it.
Good war profiteers turned into magic merchants. Then
Well,
Get your
yeah,
potion of
pretty much.
healings here.
Yeah, they went as far as to make shock troops in the war force. But so there's definitely a lot of different ways to look at it. I like the lower end magic items. I don't like it to be falling out of the sky, growing on trees, or what have you. I like it to be special when players find that magic item, no matter what it is.
You don't want to go through the end scene of a fight and pull out there's 6 or 7 magic items off their corpses, throw them into the bag of holding, move on.
Not really. I mean, not that I admit I've done that. That has happened at our table numerous times. But my default is not that. I actually like keeping my adventurers poor and giving them a reason to adventure and go out there when they have the opportunity. Because who's going to go fight a dragon? That's bullshit. Dragons set you on fire, squish you between their toes, and then eat you. That's not really something I'm looking forward to.
Is that how to
That's a humanoid
toe jam?
Yeah,
humanoid jam right there.
yeah. So why would you really want to leave the safety of a city?
And therefore, that's why it's difficult to find magic items for sale, because normally it's like, all right, I got this. I'm going to use it even though I can't. It's not super beneficial for me. Let's say it's like I'm a guy that's a thief or a rogue or something. It's like a +1 magic sword. That's good, but I mean, I'd much rather have something else. But at the same time, it's still better than not having one at all. And if you have a magic poor game, then that's a big deal, having just that one magic item.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't want to trade it away.
You're not going to Jamal's Wondrous Quickie Mart to go get what you actually wanted, which were the gloves that let you do the sleight of hand checks with advantage.
No, yeah.
Well,
that's
one of the things that you could definitely do. For any GMs out there that want to keep that low magic game, you could totally, if you want to be able to reward your players, like this system is designed that your pluses are definitely much smaller. So like there's items that are this is a magic weapon. It doesn't confer any pluses whatsoever, but it says it's magic. So you could offer up magic weapons that just have a quirk. You talked about
it'll be like a trinket that's a weapon instead of just a trinket.
But it's like you have that war song that when you draw it sings. Well, it counts as a magic weapon for creatures that need magic, and it sings. Doesn't need a bonus. Doesn't need anything.
Well, there's
else.
actually a lot of magic items in the book that do that. They don't actually confer bonuses. They have
right. That's what I'm saying. There's loads of them in the magic item section that don't talk about any pluses whatsoever.
No, they just have their ability.
Right, and I think that's really cool. It's coming from previous editions where it just crunch. Like, in 3rd edition, it was default. It had to be a +1 weapon before you could do anything else to it.
Yeah, now that a lot of the special items, don't actually confer a bonus. They just give you the cool thing.
It's like, it does this neat stuff, and it's magic. But what's this bonus to hit and damage? There is none!
Yeah, I mean, in 5th edition, getting those pluses is a big deal.
Indeed.
So they're not giving them out. So what about conversely the other direction? What if you wanted a magic-rich game? What if you wanted to run like an Everon style where you can just purchase magic items?
Well, in that situation, I would say everything drops down a tier. So anything that's rare, you can make that be uncommon, and blah 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 blah.
Or even if you took. Well, I mean, there's a lot of 5s here, so if you just knocked it down by 5, so let's say uncommon becomes more like 100, rare becomes like 1,000, very rare becomes 10,000. That kind of like whatever you want to figure out for your game. I would also suggest the creation of magic items would be much cheaper. If you wanted a magic rich game.
They go hand in hand, in my opinion.
So you could have it where magic is ever present in your society. People having torches that burn for long periods of time or forever.
Yeah, maybe. The streets are lined with ever burning street lamps.
Right.
Yeah, like Everon, where you have airships that you're powered by elementals. And if you have enough to afford it, there's actually teleportation circles that you can actually access.
Right. So there's plenty of ways to totally enrich your games for all those items that just count as a magic, I would automatically put them be, at a +1. Or make that much easier. If you really feel the crunch, you can definitely, bump numbers up some more. If you feel the game needs it. I personally don't, but
And if you don't want somebody getting 50,000 gold pieces for a very rare magic item that they don't want, you can just be like, well, you can't find a buyer for that amount. Or they'll offer, like, there is a spot where you can get a tenth of the base price, which is still a good chunk of change. I mean, you can buy a fort or something with 10 grand.
Because as the DM, I mean, this is the chart that's in the Dungeon Master's Guide. You're
The
not,
optional chart.
the optional chart. You're not necessarily saying, okay, player, roll on this thing, and then I'll tell you what happens.
Oh, yeah.
This is for you, so you can say, well, I'll roll, or I just tell you. So if you have a quest item or a legendary thing that you just don't want your players to sell, there's nobody interested. Not at the value that it's probably worth. I'll give you 100 gold for it. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah, you can't let you can't let your story and plot be circumvented by mechanics and crunch.
Right.
You just take that into account.
But this does give you a good idea of what you can do when you're done adventuring and you want to retire. And you're like, I just don't really need that +2 sword that's lit on fire anymore. I think I'm going to retire, own a farm, hire some workers, and just drink wine and stuff all day. And eat tasty food. So, I mean, if you want to do that, sell a couple of your awesome magic items and you can go buy in a really nice place for the rest of your life.
If you find a buyer.
If you can find a buyer. And if you're willing to take cheaper amounts, you can still buy a nice place. A halfway decent place.
So, I guess that pretty much wraps this up.
it's spent.
We've spent this one. What do you guys think? How do you handle magic in your campaign settings? Is there everywhere? Is it rare? Can you buy it? Can you find buyers? You can let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out on nerdarchy.com.
You can also check us out on the Nerdarchy subreddit.
With that, stay
Stay
nerdy. James Miller had asked the question, what about magic items in the economy of a fantasy setting? So, and this is like the age-old question, right? Because what would happen when I first started playing is, one, like you're like loading up your players with all kinds of cool magic items because it just seems like a great idea and
Right.
they're cool and you want to use them. But when you start breaking that down, it doesn't really work. Like, you would totally destroy the economy if they were able to actually sell everything that you gave them.
Right.
So it doesn't work. They give some cool suggestions in here about selling and buying magic items.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you guys think?
Well, in previous edition, my longest exposure with lots of magic items was 3rd edition. And in 3rd edition, every item had a price. You could always find it. You could generally try and find.
Hey guys, Nerdarchy Dave here from Nerdarchy, for Nerds by Nerds, and I got a couple of my esteemed colleagues hanging out with me
I'm
today.
Ted.
I'm Nate.
And one of our Nerdarchists out there, one of the viewers,
Find somebody to buy it, and we got to the a stopping point in the campaign, and we had so much loot that we literally could buy our own kingdom with the amount of stuff we had, and like you told us straight up, there's no way you can find buyers for all of this stuff. We would have to literally quote unquote adventure just to sell the stuff.
right?
So with 5th edition, they turned the dial back on magic items. They went back to more of, in my opinion, will be a 2nd edition mindset where magic items were a bit more rare. They did away with the whole +4 and +5 bonuses entirely, which 3rd edition really kicked out there, and they don't give you a set item price for what things are worth for everything.
Individually.
Yeah,
They now
individually.
give it based on rarity.
On its rarity. So therefore, you you can, if you adventure, I mean, you can find